Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to the Divine Insight Show, wherever and whenever you're joining us, either in video on YouTube or on audio in the podcast. So grateful for you to be here, and also for an incredible guest that I have with me today talking about the power of healing, power of sound, and many, many other things. I have the amazing Summer Watson here with me, who is a crossover singer, model, philanthropist, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. Lovely to meet you all, and can't wait to chat with you, Travis.
Yes, thank you so much. So how did you end up in here in LA?
Los Angeles has been one of my most favorite chapters of my life. Obviously, I'm British and grew up in Oxfordshire, just outside London. Moved to London, trained at the Royal College of Music. And being a soprano, I wanted to take all this amazing music that I was learning and sing it for everybody. So my plan was to figure a way out, not just to sing in opera houses, which is quite a slim audience, but really to be able to sing concerts and make albums and records and so forth. And I was blessed to be able to sign to Sony Records and recorded at the Abbey Road Studios in London, which was a phenomenal few months, amazing experience. And after I had made the album, it became #1, and we toured all over the world with it, from Buckingham Palace to 1.3 billion over in China.
Wow.
So huge audiences, and the classical crossover market is now one of the largest selling genres of music. But to answer your question, creating all this amazing music and filtering sort of classical music and presenting it in a more popular way, after a few years, I really then wanted to get back to my roots of Strauss and Brahms and Schumann. So that led me to Austria, the mecca of classical music. And I was singing with voice and piano and learning all these amazing, what's called Lieder, German Lieder songs. And I had the honor of working with Jose Carreras' management, one of the three tenors. And they said, why don't you get back to your pop classical roots? You know, have you checked out Los Angeles? And I'd never been. I had no idea of what it was like. And now going on, I think, 8, 9, 10 years possibly. It's now home, and absolutely love being here in Los Angeles. 2 suitcases from Austria. I landed in LA, didn't know anybody, and it's now home.
Yeah, I just can so relate to that experience. You know, for those of you who know my story, and getting here just a few months ago was really about following the spiritual guidance that leads us on our path. When we are consciously connected, things tend to work out, and it's one of our responsibilities to answer the call when it comes. And we met through a wonderful friend of ours, and I was just so thrilled to learn about you, and particularly your story and the inspirational story that you have, that we're here to talk about, of course, but also the wonderful healing power of sound, because that's not something that people sort of understand at an intellectual level. We understand how it feels to be in the moment of singing, maybe, or listening in a performance, or dancing at the club, or if you go out or anything. But actually talk about what it can do with us physically is something I think people don't necessarily understand. And so I was so thrilled to have you on. So with that, I know this is one of the things that's so, I think, empowering is when we can share some of our sometimes most vulnerable experiences. And I know that you've had a significant illness that you experienced, and a healing process through that. So I'd love it if whatever you're comfortable sharing about that would be amazing.
No, I mean, it's a very funny word, the word disease, you know, dis-ease, right? We're kind of familiar with that, but to go through, you know, we train when we're younger, we have the power and drive when we're in our 20s, and, you know, pile forth into what we think we should be doing, career and so forth. And, you know, I've toured all over the world and have had some amazing experiences. And my passion is to sing, and to sing for, you know, anyone and everyone, you know, really to just deliver all this amazing music that's out there, because it's a form of serving, a form of healing, and a great environment to create joy. And like I say, you know, landing here in LA and working with amazing film composers and songwriters like Michael J, who works with Celine Dion, and Judd Friedman, who wrote a lot of music for Whitney Houston, performed with David Foster, who also produces Celine Dion. These were sort of idols and sort of mega points for me.
You look at your life and say, oh, that's the shiny star that everybody wants.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you're in sort of, you know, in London or a little village growing up in Oxford, you think, gosh, you know, how do I get from sort of A to B? So all these wonderful things were happening for me. And like you say, you know, you open your heart, and it's all about trust in the universe and faith that you step one, as Einstein said, you know, you place one foot and the path will follow, right? But then here I am in Los Angeles, and early 30s, as one does, you know, you get a mammogram, and that's, you know, just kind of general upkeep. You know, you get full checkups as men, and we tend to get mammograms and so forth, and it doesn't just have to be that. I mean, for any of your viewers, and people lose their jobs, or something happens to their children, or an accident, or a divorce, you know, there are many different levels of things that happen to us along the way. And I was then diagnosed with stage 3/4 breast cancer. And I had pretty much about a month, 6 weeks to really figure out what my plan was going to be.
They had told you this is your prognosis before what would happen if
it would have spread into my lymph nodes.
Oh, okay.
So I had to work out what I was going to do. You know, was it going to be chemo and radiation, or just a mastectomy, or, you know, was I not going to do any of that and just go the complete sort of herbal Eastern medicine route and so forth? So I guess, you know, I definitely couldn't go the chemo route, because that would have burnt my vocal cords, and I'm a, you know, classically trained singer, and that was my life. So there I was, having to make these very big decisions. And, you know, it was really important to me to really create the team around me. And by that, I mean, you know, you go into full state of shock, right? You don't really know what to do. I'd never had a filling, I'd never been in hospital, I'd never had an injection. Like, I was, you know, super fit and healthy, you know, I felt amazing. I didn't understand what was going on. And for anybody who's going through it, gone through it, or and not even necessarily cancer, I mean, it can be anything, we have to really retreat and pull back and figure out, how am I going to strive forth to be able to get through this? And it's kind of challenging, because the mind and the body go even more into a state of shock. So with good friends in place to handle all of the hospital appointments, and then a lot of people were sending me so many different things, from, you know, chakra work courses and Reiki courses and meditation, and read this book and read that and watch this documentary.
Algae pills, or
and everything from essential oils that you can put directly on it, and all the rest of it. And, you know, I mean, we sort of touched on this before. I think my process was really having to kind of pull back and realize, what can I do, trying, you know, to be able to yes, I had the mastectomy in the end. Now I took a huge risk to have to heal myself from the inside out. And it was very confusing at the time, because I pretty much was vegetarian, never smoked or drank. You know, here I was living in Los Angeles, beautiful sunshine, going to the farmer's market, you know, fairly slim, and loved yoga and all of that. And so much so that it was kind of almost funny. It was ironic that, you know, the doctors were handing me the files saying, yep, there are your results.
They were kidding.
I really did. I thought they were joking. And the whole process of healing actually became quite comedic. I was very sarcastic about the whole journey to begin with all respect to everyone who's going through it, but that actually was my biggest healer. And that with then so comedy, but then also the use of sound and the vibration of really using the different elements of the tones throughout the entire body. So yes, I'm a singer, but I was coming at it very much from a professional standpoint and being the absolute elite best of the best. And through having been diagnosed with breast cancer, it enabled me to really research and look at how healing music really is. I mean, there is music therapy out there, which is all about the different tones. I mean, there's a reason why, I don't know if you listen to sort of childhood sweet little ditties that you knew, that you laugh about it, or Christmas tunes if you celebrate Christmas, or birthday tunes. There's certain intervals and certain notes that really, you know, vibrate in our frequency, whether we're singing them or whether we're listening to them. Like the Beatles, you know, certain songs, and that it makes you feel happy, you know, like why a major chord makes you feel brighter and happier as opposed to a minor chord that makes you feel sad. And I mean, obviously that's just the tip of the iceberg. But I found it absolutely fascinating to begin to delve into sound baths and meditation and different, you know, chakra workshops where you're using the breath work and understanding the tonalities to shift any blockages emotionally. Because like I say, you know, for me, there's sort of a triangle of how we exist as a human being. And I think we pretty much all know that if you live by a factory and there's, you know, pollutants around you, it's probably not great. The other entity of the triangle is obviously what we eat. But what was missing for me is, how was it that I loved food and I ate kale salad and I love greens and vegetables, and yet I still got cancer, and it's not in my family and it's not in my genes. So how does that happen? And the more I researched it, I became so enthused by it. I don't want to say obsessed, but I would watch documentaries on it. And, you know, there's an amazing documentary on Netflix called Heal. And it's all about the emotional intelligence. So there I was singing all over the world and essentially happy, succeeding in life, but being an empath, as I later learned, I was soaking up all this toxic energy, you know, from people who would say unkind things to, I don't know, I could overhear arguments, or, you know, I'd be affected what people thought of me on social media. I mean, anything that was coming my way, it just would sit in my body. And even now kind of makes me a little tense, you know, even to talk about it. And I think it's so crucial for us to really understand how our system flows, because we are not made to live in fight or flight. And for those of you who do know, it's, you know, just, it's to have an awareness of that. And for those of you who don't know what fight or flight, it's where, you know, that feeling of when you're about to do an interview, or if you've done something wrong, or if you're running late for your plane or something to catch your flight. It's that, you know, you can still function. It's not full-blown panic attack, but it's just a constant buzz of energy, like you've had too much coffee. We're not made to live like that. And I don't know about you, Travis, but I couldn't work out how to be able to exist in this relatively fast-paced world whilst not living in Tibet on the top of a mountain. Like, I wanted to bring that in somehow.
There was this, when you were describing your experience as an empath, I related to that because, you know, I've talked about empathy a lot on and it's different than saying I can, wow, that story that I see or that someone else's experience that I perceive to be negative or what they're sharing with me. It's different than saying I can understand it at a neutrality level what they're experiencing, but it's actually, when you're an empath, you take it on and you hold it as your own, because, and even unconsciously you don't recognize that you're doing it or how to let it go. So a lot of the work that I do is around, separating yourself from the toxic cords of others, whether that's actually with the relationship you might be in that you need to let go of, or psychically, spiritually with past relationships that continue to show up in a way that holds us back. And it was so powerful to me because part of the work that I do involves toning, which is a tone that I channel in sessions, either in person or at a distance, which moves energy through not just the physical body, but even the metaphysical body, and creates wellness and or movement. So energy, as we understand from physics, must move. Stagnant energy is death in the body, and dis-ease. And so our chakras want to move properly. Our energy wants to be flowing. And if it's not, we don't feel good. We might get tired or lethargic. So that's why I thought it was so valuable to have you on, because you're such a powerful, you're a powerhouse in the wellness industry when it comes to this type of work particularly. And I know that in LA, as soon as I got here, the first thing that people were telling me, oh, sound baths, sound baths, sound baths. And at the wellness studio that I work out of, Liberate, which ironically is like the heartbeat of Hollywood, it's the center, they do sound baths, and those of all of the offerings fill up so quickly. And I think you and I talked before the show a little bit about how it sort of could sound super woo-woo-y to like, oh, go to a room and lay on a yoga mat, and just have this like sound. But I know that your experience and what you do is like, that's so powerful and healing.
Well, the amazing thing is, I mean, listen, when I was at music college, we would sing for 8 hours a day. I mean, practicing scales and runs and high notes for pretty much 8 hours a day, on top of like work with piano players and different arias and stuff. So you literally were walking around high on life. I didn't smoke or drink, but because you're just like, so vibrant, and you're buzzing and singing super high notes, and you can imagine it's like the Olympics of the voice, right? And like nothing would affect, you just feel incredible. And when you're then not focusing on really realizing and recognizing that vibration at that level is actually healing, it's really easy to forget, and it's really easy to not be aware of that. And one of the things that I was so fascinated with is I didn't understand what was going on when I would soak up people's energy, and I felt it here. I would feel sick. Like if somebody was unkind to me, it would sit with me for days, sometimes then at the back of my mind for months. Sometimes when you talk about subconsciously, people say, oh, just let it go. Just let it go. Just have a nice bar, just forget about it. But it wouldn't go away. I wasn't exactly, desperate on the floor crying about it. But even subconsciously at the classic time, 4 till 6 in the morning, which is when all the emotions like come out, apparently something to do with the liver, I think, it would still be there. And my subconscious was in overtime, running in overdrive. And so when diagnosed with this, horrendous disease, it's almost, comical, because I was so healthy, absolutely, sounding great, felt amazing. We were supposed to be doing triathlons, the week of. I mean, it was ironic. To then be, introduced to sound baths and so on, I just thought, well, I literally just got to a point where I'm just going to try anything and everything. I've never been to one before. What can laying on a yoga mat and listening to angelic celestial singers and somebody playing didgeridoo and banging some gongs? Okay, that's nice. I might fall asleep. That'd be lovely. But for any of you, I'm sure there are many of you who are very familiar with them, but I talk about it all the time, like the latest vacuum. Honestly, if you want to clean yourself and have a good spring clean, I can't recommend this kind of work more than anything in the world. Greens juices and kale salads, that's all fantastic, and I highly recommend that too. But the essence of how we're vibrating people can smell it. Like people can see it, even if you're not in tune with that. You could be a banker and you can still tell when somebody is off, you know?
Yeah.
And so this is why it's so exciting that, you know, an old recording studio, Liberate, is now turned into one of the meccas of spiritual healing here in LA, and I'm sure there are places like it all over the world. We need those kind of setups to be able to use beautiful angelic tones that are high, that resonate in our higher chakras, from, you know, very thunderous low gongs to really get the roots, you know, to kind of vibrational vibraphones or xylophones that, you know, move the energy. And I honestly sound like a hippie at this point, and I do recognize that, but you have to just go and experience it. And there are many all over, you know, from beautiful churches that they empty out and you lay on the yoga mats and you can feel the shift. Some you might laugh or you might cry, but we can't walk around with all of that stuck inside us. We should feel free. We should. We are supposed to be authentically free as a human being, right? Whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is, or quantum physics, like we're not supposed to come from a place of like, oh, I wonder what she or he will think, and oh, am I supposed to be like this or that or whatever? Because the more we kind of trap ourselves, then we can't grow. I mean, an oak tree doesn't apologize for how big it grows, and a cactus doesn't apologize for how spiky it is, right?
Yeah.
They're free to be individual, right? And that's what I'm really enjoying working on, is through all that tonal energy, that is a daily practice for me.
When you also had mentioned that, I mean, while you were going through this process, you know, the surgery and the recovery, that you couldn't sing.
Right.
And what are you going to do with yourself?
Yeah.
And this sort of comes full circle in the sense that you teach and coach people. Can you talk a little bit about how that works?
I mean, it's extraordinary because we are faced with the most traumatic experiences. And here I was, you know, my whole right side was black. I, you know, had my right breast removed completely. That's traumatic in itself, just emotionally, let alone the fact that you have drips and you can't move your arm more than an inch for a couple of years. It took a long time to really be able to move. So rather than singing, because obviously big performances take a huge amount of energy, and I couldn't breathe, you know, the type of breath that's necessary. So coaching, I just began, you know, very, very small, to coach younger artists, the next generation. And I found this incredible sense of passion and drive to be able to coach them through what emotional blocks they were going through. And it was amazing to me, to the point where I actually almost kind of thought, am I doing life coaching here, or am I doing singing lessons? You know, and these were for people from, you know, beginners all the way to people who were signed already to labels. And what I began to realize was people would walk in the room one energy, whether they were really amazing and all vibey and way to like over hyper, they would become more authentic through getting to the depths of some good training with the vocal exercises and so forth. Or they could be so introvert and super shy, or they'd be so in their head, you know, very, very worried and not even able to get a sound out. And what I noticed was people who were introvert and struggling or in their head about what they sounded like, that's how they were living their life, about in many areas, whether it be going to the grocery store or not having the confidence to do an interview. And these weren't just professional singers. These were people who wanted to try to learn to sing as part of their life, you know, and they had a career as well. And I realized the power of singing. And it started this absolute sort of you know, huge passion of mine to research let's get back to our roots. You know, if you think of like the Celts, you know, the Celtish, whether it's Scottish or Irish, you know, they get out the violins and they sing around the fireplace, and they still do. You know, they'll go out and do their things in the daytime, and then they'll all come around and have a pint of beer or whatever it is. But Native Indians also, or the amazing, like the Maasai, the African tribes, the kids from the age of 2 are banging drums and singing and rhythm and joy. I mean, you think of, you know, some of the most challenged communities, let's say in Africa, you know, no drinking water, horrendously poor, and yet beaming with joy, truly beaming with joy, because they're singing through pain and through happy times as well. And that vibrational healing, and the Maasai especially, they jump up and down to get the energy flowing. And that's why I think this is a wonderful time, you know, to be able to use technology to talk to everyone out there, and to communicate together, to tip the scales, whether, you know, you work in a store or a bank, or you're a CEO or a busy mum, or you're a singer or an actor, it doesn't really matter. But to build sound baths, meditation, Reiki, practice where we're using the breath and using the voice at different vibrations, whether we're scared of it or excited about it, just to delve in deep.
I know a lot of people, you know, myself included, the idea of singing, just the whole conception, the narrative that plays out in the fear-based way in which we can be afraid of being seen, brings up all the stuff. It's sort of like, you know, as a new author writing, I'm like, all this stuff comes out, you know, all of the self-judgment, all of the self-criticism. And in such a meaningful way, you know, with authenticity, you're able to help people. And it's kind of ironic as well, I think, that as a professional singer, the true power of, it just doesn't sound like, song and the voice didn't really fully, you know, was not fully understood even by you until your own process happened.
That's it. I mean, the thing is, when you're training, you don't get taught at music college the psychology behind singing. I mean, you just become the best of the best, right? I mean, you're in an establishment where they've been churning out the world's best sopranos and piano players for hundreds of years, and they're all on the walls, and it's all very inspiring, but it's also very intimidating. So you're walking around as a young student, totally kind of like, oh gosh, that was Joan Sutherland, who's a very famous soprano, you know, that's, you know, XYZ, all these amazing artists. But then as you're becoming technically proficient and obviously engaged with the music and feeling and the words and so forth, but I think being here in LA, not only here in LA, but also being diagnosed with with stage 4 breast cancer, I was forced to get back to the root of music. Maybe if I'd been a writer, it would have been the same thing. Or if I were, you know, just acting, maybe the same thing, just act for the sake of acting. I think the level of creativity is shifting here in Western society. We need creativity. We need to get back to breath work. We need to tap into some element of singing. And whether you're the type of person that, you know, has oodles of joy, and you're kind of like a Tigger and you just want to go out and have fun, bouncy all the way, you know, go out with your friends and go to a karaoke or something, and you don't have to drink, you just go have fun, go goof around and have fun and sing, because you always feel amazing. But if you are somebody super introvert and quite fearful of what you might sound like, highly recommend just, you know, no one in the home, create your own space, a little sanctuary, and just take a nice deep breath, let it all go. Yeah, drop the arms, relax the shoulders and the neck and the jaw especially. So let's try that one more time. You're going to breathe in, take the arms to the sky. Smile and release and let go. Drop the arms. Just take a moment to visualize your favorite space. Now, you might be in a one-bed apartment somewhere, but you can take yourself anywhere. Malibu, on the beach, your favorite space in New York, wherever you are in the world, somewhere quiet that means everything to you, and no one's judging you, no one's watching you, and you breathe and just sing Om. So with the root chakra, oh, and it's the low end, moving forward, you use the embouchure, ooh, and then moves up to the third eye, right? So,
fascinating.
oh, right? So even with just the simple word of Om, you're using the root up to the middle chakras, then all the way up to the third eye. And that is like a little seedling for you to begin.
It's beautiful. And actually, as a clairvoyant, sorry, I was looking a little bit, I could actually see the vibrational frequency of that sound within your spine, which is right where the chakras meet. And it was very much just like you said, the frequency went up right through. So beautiful. And I, you know, as a new yin yoga teacher myself, you know, we practice a form of, you know, stillness practice, which many of us, myself included, need to learn, because we're all yang, 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 movement, action, sun, masculine, forward, power. But what we don't do a lot is take this step in with awareness and mindfulness about what it is that we are experiencing. And that's what I loved about even just this one thing that you just did, which anybody can do at home, to kind of start the feeling. It's the feeling we need to get to, the feeling of our body. What does it feel like to be in this body? So that Om is something we can all do. So thank you so much. And you also are a coach, so people can work with you if they want to. How can they get in touch with you?
So my Instagram is the best way. It's Summer Watson Official. And yeah, you can just DM me. And on the actual feed are obviously concerts that I'm still performing at. One up and coming concert I'm very excited about is the October 13th, a gala here in Los Angeles in aid of breast cancer survivors. And I'll be performing, but also some amazing bands as well. But yeah, one of my biggest passions is coaching, whether you're, you know, full-time mom and full-on career, or whether you're a singer wanting to, you know, progress in your career. For me, if you're going to really vibrate at the essence that you're supposed to function at, singing and breathing are the two main elements of what we as human beings are supposed to do. Because if you think about it, what did you do when you were born? 1, breathe. 2, scream. And they're the two essences, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what we need to be doing. We need to, you know, whether we're facing trials and tribulations, whatever the journey, the roller coaster still flies. Well, it does fly actually. Yeah, up and down, right? So, but the thing is to be, how do we bring that wonderful essence of the feeling we have on the beach or on the top of a mountain in Tibet or something here in frantic Los Angeles, in this moment, in my car at the stoplight where the guy's annoying me that, you know, he just slammed his brakes on or something, right? How do we don't have to walk around being namaste, but how do we continually heal ourselves? And I think through sound and vibration, whether it be just at home listening to beautiful soundtracks like Max Richter, who's an amazing film composer, and we can release ourselves and allow ourselves to cry and to laugh and to let it go, or whether we go to liberate and you know and work with specialists in the area to really heal every essence of our body. Because the most important and amazing thing that I've really learned along this journey is people are soaking up so much toxicity and it stays in their body without them even realizing. Right. And one of the biggest things, having gone through what I've gone through, I meet people who've also gone through breast cancer or any kind of cancer, any illness, but then all the family members get so stressed about what they're going through that they then become ill because of it. Not necessarily get cancer, but we have to release ourselves to be able to have conversations about losing a job or divorce or a breakup or something happened or an illness or loss of house or, you know, I mean, how is it that the Maasai, you know, the children die or they go through these awful, awful things. They lose an arm from a war, but they still manage to, you know, heal and work through. And I really believe it's through just community, solid, good friends and family, and not just by having that label of a friend and family, but because they're pure, you know, and they've got good hearts and good, authentic, good intentions, and through the sound work.
Yeah, thank you. That's so wonderful. And also, I couldn't help but notice you have a beautiful necklace on. And could you talk a little bit about that? What does that say?
It actually says, "Be beautiful," like beautiful. I was connected with the Beautiful Foundation. They're on Instagram.
It's B-U.
B-U. It's really cool. Because when you put it on, you feel like B-U. Just be you. Be yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it was a foundation started for people who've gone through breast cancer. And it's funny because, again, the foundation was created to create joy around the healing process. So on a physical level, they create these amazing days for, you know, women to have their hair done at wonderful salons all over America, or makeovers, or go to lovely galas and parties and so forth. But for me, what I'm so excited about what they do is they create joy and celebrate the women who have gone through this traumatic experience. So people are always kind of surprised, you know. I mean, you even at the beginning were like, I hope you can share whatever you would like and so forth. Yeah. But I just want to get to a point where it's not kind of you got to phone a number and, oh, it's awful that I mean, it is an awful disease. But I think now we're at a tipping point where we need to be so free that we can talk about, reduce the shame, because that in itself creates fear and tension in yourself, you know, just like, can I ask? I'm not sure. I feel kind of weird. Like I don't know how to talk about it. And we're not just looking for the Western medicine cure. We also need to do some of the work ourselves and to feel free and joyous. And as I like to say, be Tigger. You know, you've got to have fun.
Well, I love that. It's so funny because the very first time I ever came to LA, to Disneyland, Tigger was my absolute favorite always. And it had a lot to do with the bouncy, you know, the energy of Tigger. And also, as you were talking about, you know, be you, and particularly around the space of liberate and healing and wellness, it's and also the vulnerability. You know, when I say that, it's always nice to say, oh, I understand there's vulnerability around this. But when I'll just say by example, I came out of a workshop the other day, and one of the participants in the workshop, it was down in Costa Mesa at Visions and Dreams, beautiful space. And she came up to me and she said, and I was just so grateful, but she said, that was so amazing. And part of what was so powerful for her was the sharing of the experiences that I've had that were so painful and my struggles and fight, because she said, it just made me think you're just one of us girls, you know, one of the girls. And I was like, yeah, you know, if we're sharing something only with ourselves, you know, our secrets kill us. And it's really about be yourself, be vulnerable, get your inner freak on, be the Tigger, and allow yourself some fun and freedom in your life. And I think that's really a great message for everyone.
Yeah.
And is there anything else you want to share?
I mean, that really for me is the essence, to be able to vibrate at the best possible human being you can be, right? I mean, remember, there is only one of you in the entire universe, you know, one Travis, one Summer. And so with who we are and who we're born as, and whether you believe in God or universe or quantum physics, like whatever your thing is that you believe in, there's never going to be another amazing Travis or another, you know, Summer Watson. And it's taken me a lifetime to kind of realize this, like deep from within, And it is so interesting because we look at success, you know, gorgeous young man and doing all this amazing healing, or like, you know, the blue-eyed soprano and she's slim and how is that, right? That's not fair and all the rest of it. But actually deep inside, you know, we all have hang-ups. And the most crucial thing that I've learned along this way is actually there isn't even a me or a you, because we are actually, without sounding too la-la land at this point, we are one. And one of my favorite authors is Eckhart Tolle, and it's all about the state of consciousness where you can really let go of the fear and the negativity, because that's all ego driven. Even the most introvert of people, that's ego as well.
Yeah,
you know,
us back, holding us in fear.
Absolutely. And when we live in fear-based or negativity in that sense, the only place for it to reside is in your cells. And your cells are vibrating negatively, what's going to happen?
Yeah. You have stagnancy.
You have
right?
stagnancy, you can't flow. And so then the disease of some which way will come about in some, you know, somewhere.
Yeah, and it's wonderful how science is catching up to what we all seem to understand intuitively around the science of epigenetics. Our cells have consciousness, they respond to our thoughts. And once we become more aware of them, we're not held back or shackled by them. Yeah. So
you know, the most amazing thing just on that note is the more you do the work, I find that you set up your day where you really are in tune with feeling incredible. Like you just go figure out whatever makes you feel amazing and do that every day and have some me time. Put some boundaries around so that you can really be vibrating at the highest level where you feel amazing. You know those moments that you feel phenomenal,
free.
you feel free.
Yeah.
You should feel like you want to try to feel like that all the time. Then you'll meet amazing people. And then all your tribe will just be that energy.
Yeah.
And anyone who kind of comes in who's not quite there with the work, and so that won't even be.
It won't even be in the same trajectory.
It won't be in your pathway at all.
Yeah.
And
not orbiting in the same level.
No.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. They just made, you know, they've got the work to do. That's a different, it's a different life cycle.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and honor to have you on. I'm really glad to have this opportunity. Thank you so much for joining wherever and whenever you're doing so. If you're in the LA area, I hope that you come and see me at Liberate. I'm there Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays right now. And also you can go to my website, divineinsight.com, or also Instagram. I'll be actually starting to do, last week, I decided to start doing free live Instagram readings from 5:30 to 6 p.m. So you go to @_Travis Taylor on Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, and I will be there for you with service. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. Bless you.